The text came through while I was standing in the kitchen, staring at the cold coffee I had forgotten to drink, and it felt like someone had pressed a thumb straight into my chest and held it there. Book club was canceled months ago, her friend wrote. Why? I read it again, slower this time, hoping I had misunderstood. Hoping I had mixed up names or days or something simple that could still be explained away. But the words did not change. They stayed sharp and calm, like they had no idea they were tearing something open inside me. That morning, my wife had kissed my cheek by the door and said she would be late. Book club night. Same answer she had given every Thursday for the past few months. I had smiled, told her to have fun, asked what book they were on now. She laughed and said something vague, and I did not push because pushing felt rude, and because trusting her had always felt as natural as breathing. Now the house felt too quiet. The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked. Everything kept working while my thoughts fell apart. I typed back slowly, my hands shaking enough that I had to correct mistakes. She said she was with you all tonight. There was a long pause before the reply came. Long enough for my heart to start racing. Long enough for me to think about all the small moments I had ignored. The nights she came home distracted. The way she placed her phone face down. The smile that seemed to arrive half a second too late. We haven't met since spring, her friend finally wrote. I thought you knew. I sat down hard at the kitchen table. The wood was cool against my palms, grounding me in a way I suddenly needed. My mind jumped between denial and memory, searching for some version of reality where this made sense without meaning what it clearly meant. When she came home that night, I was still sitting there. The coffee had gone untouched. The lights were dim. I did not plan how to confront her. I just waited. She froze when she saw me. Not dramatically, just a small hesitation, like someone who knows they have missed a step on a staircase. You're home early, she said. I didn't go anywhere, I replied. My voice sounded steady, which surprised me. She set her bag down slowly. Everything okay? I looked at her, really looked. The woman I had built a life with. The woman who knew how I took my eggs and which songs made me cry even when I pretended they didn't. I wondered how long she had been lying to my face and still kissing me goodbye. How was book club? I asked. Something flickered in her eyes. It was quick, but I saw it. She shrugged. Same as always. Who was there? She laughed softly. Why the quiz? I'm just curious. She named 2 people. One of them was the woman who had texted me earlier. I felt my stomach drop. Funny, I said, and now my voice cracked despite my effort. Because she says you haven't met in months. The room felt smaller. She opened her mouth, closed it, then sighed and sat across from me. I can explain. That sentence landed heavier than any confession. Explain meant there was something to explain. I wanted to yell. I wanted to throw something. Instead, I whispered, please do. She told me she had needed space. That things felt routine. That she had not meant for it to go this far. The words piled up but did not form anything solid I could hold on to. I asked where she had really been. She did not answer at first. When she did, she said a name I did not recognize. He's just someone I talked to, she said quickly. It didn't start like this. My chest burned. So it did start. Tears filled her eyes, and for a moment I almost reached across the table. Habit is powerful. Then I remembered the text, the months, the quiet lies. I went to bed alone that night. I stared at the ceiling, listening to her move around the house. Each sound another reminder that nothing was where I thought it was anymore. I replayed conversations from the past year, searching for clues. Every laugh felt suspicious now. Every memory felt fragile. The next days blurred together. I went to work and came home and pretended I was functioning. She tried to talk. Sometimes I listened. Sometimes I could not stand the sound of her voice. She swore it was over. She promised transparency. She handed me her phone without being asked, which somehow hurt more than if she had refused. One afternoon, while she was in the shower, a notification buzzed on her phone. I did not want to look. I told myself that. My hand moved anyway. It was him. A simple message. Miss you. That was when something inside me finally broke cleanly instead of slowly. I realized I had been waiting for proof strong enough to remove all doubt. Now I had it, and it did not bring relief. It brought clarity, sharp and painful. When she came out, wrapped in a towel, I held up the phone. She did not deny it this time. She sat on the edge of the bed and cried openly, not trying to explain, not trying to soften it. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said. I know, I replied and meant it. But you did. We talked until our voices went hoarse. about what had been missing, about how long it had been happening, about whether love could survive something like this. There were no easy answers, just honesty, late and imperfect. That night, I slept on the couch. In the dark, I felt a strange calm settle in. Not peace, just the absence of confusion. The truth had finally caught up to me. In the morning, I packed a bag. She watched silently from the doorway. I paused before leaving, my hand on the doorframe, taking in the familiar shape of a life I no longer recognized. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I said quietly. She nodded, tears running freely now. "I wish I hadn't lost you along the way." Outside, the air was cool and bright. I stood there for a moment, letting it sink in. The ache was deep, but beneath it was something steady. A sense that while everything had fallen apart, I finally knew where I stood. I walked to my car, carrying the weight of what was lost and the clarity of what could never be the same, and drove away without looking back. I did not go far at first. I drove until the streets felt unfamiliar, until the names on the signs stopped carrying memories, and then I pulled over and sat there with my hands on the steering wheel. My phone buzzed twice in my pocket. I did not check it. I already knew who it was, and I did not trust myself to stay steady if I saw her name light up the screen. I stayed with my brother that first week. His spare room smelled like dust and old books, and the mattress dipped in the middle. At night, I lay awake listening to the house settle, my thoughts circling the same questions over and over. When did it really start? How long had she been looking at someone else, and then coming home to me like nothing had changed? How many moments that I thought were real had been shared with someone else in her mind? During the day, I went through the motions. Work, food, small talk that felt pointless. People asked how I was, and I said fine because saying anything else felt too complicated. My brother did not push. He just made coffee in the mornings and left the door open, letting me decide when to talk. One night, I finally did. "I keep thinking I missed something obvious," I said, staring at the television without really seeing it. Like if I had paid more attention, I could have stopped it. He shook his head. "You're not responsible for choices she made without you." I wanted to believe him. Part of me did. Another part kept replaying the small shifts I had brushed aside. The late nights. The way she seemed restless even when she was smiling. I had trusted her because trust was the foundation we had built everything on. Now that foundation felt cracked, and I was standing in the rubble, trying to figure out what parts were still solid enough to step on. She texted every day at first. Apologies. Promises. Long messages about how empty the house felt without me. I read them all. I did not reply. Silence felt like the only boundary I could manage. A week later, I agreed to meet her. We chose a quiet cafe halfway between our places, neutral ground. She looked thinner, tired. When she saw me, her face softened in that familiar way that used to make everything else fade. This time, it just hurt. "I ended it," she said before I could speak. "Completely. I blocked him. I told him not to contact me again." I nodded. "I believe you." Her eyes filled with tears. "Then why are you still so far away?" "Because believing you doesn't undo what happened," I said gently. "And because I don't know who I am with you anymore." We talked for hours. About counseling. About space. About whether rebuilding was even possible. She admitted things she had never said out loud before. How she liked the way he made her feel seen. How easy it was to step into a version of herself that wasn't weighed down by history. Hearing it hurt, but it also felt honest in a way our conversations had not been for a long time. When we left, she reached for my hand out of habit. I pulled back, not angrily, just honestly. She nodded, understanding even though it clearly pained her. Time passed slowly after that. I moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. It was quiet, empty. The first night, I sat on the floor and ate takeout straight from the container. I felt lonely in a new way, one that did not come from sharing space with someone who felt distant, but from being truly alone. Some nights were harder than others. Songs came on the radio that reminded me of road trips. I found a mug in a box that still smelled faintly like her coffee. Grief arrived in waves, unpredictable and exhausting. But alongside it came moments of clarity. I realized how much of myself I had slowly folded away to keep our life smooth. How often I had chosen peace over honesty. She and I continued to talk carefully. Sometimes the conversations were calm and thoughtful. Other times they cracked open old wounds and left us both raw. There were days I missed her so intensely it felt physical. There were days I felt relief so strong it scared me. One evening, she asked me directly, "Do you think you could ever trust me again?" I took a long breath before answering. "I don't know. And that scares me." She nodded. "It scares me too." That honesty became our anchor, fragile but real. We started seeing a therapist together. Not to rush toward fixing things, but to understand what had broken and why. Some sessions ended in silence. Others ended with tears. Slowly, I began to see her not just as the woman who betrayed me, but as someone flawed and searching just like me. Still, there was a line I could not cross. Trust did not return simply because effort existed. It returned in small moments or not at all. Months later, I stood in my apartment one morning, sunlight cutting across the bare walls, and realized something had shifted. The ache was still there, but it no longer defined every thought. I had started to imagine a future again. Not a specific one, just the idea that life could still expand instead of shrink. We met for a walk that evening. Leaves crunched under our feet. The air smelled like rain. She asked me if I wanted to try living together again, not moving back into the old house. Something new. I stopped walking and looked at her. Really looked. "I'm not ready," I said. "And I don't know if I ever will be." Her shoulders slumped, but she did not argue. "Thank you for telling me the truth." We stood there in silence, the space between us heavy but honest. In that moment, I understood something clearly for the first time since the night the lie unraveled. Loving someone did not always mean staying. Sometimes it meant letting go, even when it hurt. When we said goodbye, it felt different. Final, but not cruel. I watched her walk away, carrying her own regret and growth, and I wished her well in a way that surprised me. Later that night, alone in my apartment, I sat by the window and looked out at the city lights. My life had cracked open, but through those cracks, I could see parts of myself I had forgotten. The pain had not disappeared, but it had taught me where my boundaries were, what honesty truly cost, and what I deserved. I did not know exactly where I was going next. I only knew that the truth, once it finally surfaced, had given me something solid to stand on. And for the first time in a long while, that was enough.